All right, everyone, we're just going to go ahead and get started. I'll just say this, I'll throw it out. Thank you all for coming out. No, it's the last session of the day. I know I'm standing between you and happy hour. We'd like to invite everyone who stays for the end of the session to come join us for Q&A, to stand for a few pints and just celebrate the right way, close out the day. I do appreciate you showing out. Means a lot that you want to come hear what we have to say. And we're going to talk about finding your way on your IGA journey. My name is Gregory. I'm the Director of Technical Alliances for Omada. We're an identity and governance solution. And when we start to look at this, we're all facing it. If you made my session this morning, you saw I talked about digital transformation, and I defined that very well. Evolving technology is a burden on IT, all right? To keep up at the pace at which everybody wants to transform, everybody wants to do new things, deploy new apps, enable new services. Let's take a look at how you conquer this. The journey to IGA, it has 7 pillars, and you're gonna have to ask yourself some questions. You wanna avoid some common pitfalls. You wanna focus in on a few key areas, and you wanna review those areas. And then you wanna get a good plan on how you move forward and how you can achieve success that's not only measurable for you in your own professional career, but for your organization to drive great results so you can assure compliance. Slide will build. You can see complexity has increased. We've gone a long way from just a Windows box, sit down, log in the servers down in the data center. We've got cloud, storage, NAS, performance, SIAM, multiple things that are out there. Hybrid, heterogeneous, our environments have grown through M&A. It's a reality, okay? It's not gonna get any easier. Business is gonna continue to evolve, and so is technology. When you look at the journey to IGA, there's a couple reasons why you embark on an identity governance and administration project. First is address the lack of adequate security. You may have some controls, you may want some more controls. You may wanna find out who has access to what, make sure that the right people have access to the right resources. So addressing lack of adequate security. Non-compliance. You either know you're gonna have an incident, you've had an incident, you know you're under regulatory constraints, and you know you need to address those constraints. In doing so, you know you've got a non-compliance issue, and it's difficult to enforce, and it's ever-changing. If you have multiple businesses inside of your business, you know that you could have multiple compliance hurdles to get over. At the same time that IT is getting more complex, you don't see the IT staff growing, okay? So operational efficiency and making people's lives easier and automating processes and taking the manual piece out of it is gonna be key, all right? The staffs aren't gonna be growing exponentially. So when you look at the questions you have to ask is, how did we get to this point? I've talked to quite a few people at this conference and quite a few people in this room. I inherited it. Somebody else made a decision and bought it. Don't know it was here when I got here. Management forced this decision on me. I didn't choose that vendor. They just came down and told me I was deploying this. How did we get to this point? Has our business grown? Have we had M&A? Have we had a divestiture? Have we had a breach? Does our current solution or solution set meet our needs? Right? When we look across the pillars of IGA, it's more than just governance, it's audit, compliance, identity management, access requests, fulfillment, workflows, business alignment. All that stuff needs to be checked. Even the best architecture needs to be validated every 3 to 5 years. Are we satisfied with our current level of compliance? When you talk about what does compliance mean to you, okay? Is it a law, is it a regulation? Are you satisfied that you're meeting your own security levels? And is that security adequate? Does your CISO sleep at night? Or are you worried you're gonna be the next name in the news as far as having a data breach or having somebody walk out the door with your intellectual property? Can we achieve operational efficiencies? Or is my IT staff gonna work 14-hour days for the rest of their lives until they go find a new job, and then I'll recruit somebody else in here to come do that work, and then I've gotta train them, and then they'll be back as, how did we get to this point? Well, the last guy left and now I inherited it. What do? It's a cycle, as you can see. And then bottom line is what you wanna try to achieve is, do the right people have access to the right resources? And when you talk about the right people having access to the right resources, making sure that you have processes that enforce those governance controls and ensure that no unauthorized data breaches can occur and that the right people do have access to them. And of course, you're going to ask yourself, what can we do better? How can we improve? Everybody wants to improve, put their best forward, and most importantly is, where do I begin? So many initiatives, so many projects, so many applications to integrate, so many systems, multiple levels of compliance. What do I do? When you look at common pitfalls that you want to avoid, understanding and never underestimating that effort that is there to achieve that desired result. It's easy to say we're going to do role-based access control, for example. To do RBAC is the coup de grace, holy grail of identity management. A lot of people reach for that. They try to reach for it. They don't have good data. They make bad decisions. They get faulty policies and roles. They don't achieve their results. These projects never end. Reach for the stars, big bang projects. Better to break these projects up into manageable chunks that drive results for you, that you can have measurable accountability for it. If you had to go up the mountain and ask for more money, you've got to show success. And what's key to success? Improper business sponsorship and/or alignment. Your onboarding applications. Do you as an IT control person, do you as a governance officer know that application? You need to have that application. You need to understand your business. You need to have them as partners in your project to drive success for you. The last but not least is not leveraging best practices. As part of attending this as well, and some of you have been to other sessions or been by our booth, you have seen that we have a publication called IdentityProcess Plus. That IdentityProcess Plus is based on 20 years of best practices. It's not about us, it's about thought-provoking on how you can accomplish things in these domains. So when we look at the domains that you want to work on, how do we assess our current situation? How do we define our focus areas? How can we enhance where our quick wins, and how do we fully evolve? Let's look at the focus reviews. Identity Lifecycle Management, data brokering, hire, fire, join, move, leaver. Access management, business alignment, again, ever critical to have business alignment. Governance, administration, audit, and last but not least is case management and breach response. All of these focus areas are covered in the IdentityProcess Plus book. All of these are individual focus areas. You wouldn't look at this and say, I'm going to go do my IGA project. I need to do all 7 of these at once. You will choose and prioritize which one of these is the most important to you, what's going to drive the most value, and what's going to help you achieve your success at the pace that you want to achieve it. We can talk about lifecycle management. Join, move, leave, hire, fire, manage scenario. You can see that you're going to have a good process or a bad process for this. You either have it covered or you don't have it covered. Your product either works or it doesn't work. It's still supported in some cases. Maybe homegrown, may not be, maybe end of life, may have been acquired. But as you can see, I'll let this slide build. Start as a contractor, first day, contract extended, become an FTE, get married, have a leave, department change, get promoted, go out on leave, return, resign, rejoin, retire. As you can see across the bottom through all of those identity lifecycle management events, the access permissions associated for each of those roles at that time period are in fact going to change and evolve. As you move in and out of a position, as your status changes, your associated rights should be reflective of that. Work. Access request. Access request is all about self-service, fulfillment for users, the ability for them to request resources. It's going to make efficiencies. You can still enforce policies. And self-service is going to lighten the IT workload. Okay, it's as simple as that. If I don't have to open a ticket, make a phone call someone on the phone, enter a ticket, assign that ticket, have that ticket get handed off to a system owner, have them go ahead and make a change, have them back loop that all the way back to the user, back that entire process and say, guess what? You now have access. Access request is going to make this much more efficient for you. Access requests can also come with approvals. Okay, and it's safe to say that multi-level and approval workflows. Our product supports up to 9. I'm not allowed to mention our product, but I could say anything you choose to use for workflows should have multiple options for you. Should also have the ability to graft policies on. Policies are going to enforce compliance and drive the results you want. Good example of this is I can request something, it can go off to my manager can approve it, the system owner can approve it, and the auditor can still say, no, you can't have access to it, or yes, you can have access to it, but only for a week. Good example of applying policies to a multi-level workflow. SOD can be enforced. Segregation, separation of duties are all things that you want to have. You don't want to write your own prescription and be able to fill it. You don't want to write your own, well, maybe some people might, but you don't want to be able to assign your own PO and pay your own PO. These are things that the business wants to enforce. You can't be a member of the domain admins group on-prem and the global admins group in the Azure instance. These types of things. You enforce them and you drive results based on them. You define segregation of duties. Talk about business alignment and business models across roles, across policies, constraint policies, where our toxic combinations are. We just went over a few of them. Can't be in stocks, can't be in derivatives, you can't be on the trading floor. Roles. I mentioned RBAC, okay? I'm just gonna say it is the holy grail coup de grace of identity. People come in and say there's an easy way to get roles, okay? You can get roles through good data, and the easiest way to do that is to do the work. It's as simple as that. Contexts allow you to build a model that fits your organization. Okay, context is not necessarily taking a role and saying, I'm an accountant, I'm a publisher, I'm a trader. Instead, we're saying that I'm in financials, I'm in this location, I work at this address, and I'm in the US, allowing that contextual-based policy assignment to drive what the role should be. I'll give you a word of advice. If you're talking with quite a few people, you can probably get 85% policy-driven and use the other 15 through access requests and build a good access request model. You don't need to roll down to the one person that accesses the one app that accesses that app once a month that does not belong in a role, okay? Use the roles to do the heavy lifting and find the commonalities and the common strands across your users. Policies. This business alignment is essential for policies because you have so many individual policies that are coming down at you. SOX, HIPAA, CCPA, GDPR, NYPA, you name it, it's going to keep coming. ISO. You have no idea how many policies are out there that you want to adhere to, let alone what your own CISO's agenda is, let alone what your own company's security posture is, let alone the objectives that anybody in your organization who has a security mind wants to achieve. Their own policies can fall into this range too. Governance. Governance is the process of getting in control. Import everything, analyze everything, review everything, put it through your processing system, and then stay in control. Enhance how you do your governance process. You want to detect and remediate in real time. So a get in control, stay in control modality is definitely going to be the way to go if you're trying to enhance your governance process. The session I did this morning was don't digitally transform without the audit. And you can put the greatest technology in place in an organization. If you're still handing spreadsheets out to users, you haven't done them any favor, okay? Putting a big stack on someone's desk and saying, approve this for me to say you're compliant is not necessarily going to be evolving and enhancing any governance process that you have. Administration. Any system that you choose to go with, how you onboard systems, how you care and feed for that system, what does the maintenance of that system look like? It should be extremely easy to onboard applications, load resources, assign them to existing policies, and make them available for not only access requests, but ensure that they are associated, tagged with the right compliance so that they can be audited and you can apply governance in a uniform manner. I already covered add, move, delete. You want to ensure that the new applications, when they come onto the system, are still inside of your current security posture, to include compliance, segregation of duty, and are classified and risk scored appropriately. Proper administration is going to lead to no misconfiguration. No misconfiguration will lead to no gaps in service, leads to a steady and persistent posture and level of compliance. Audit. Audit-ready reporting. Okay, the session this morning I talked about companies that have done extreme technology investments. They have somebody come in, they camp out 1 to 30 days, $600K to be SOX compliant twice a year, $1.2 million to achieve a level of audit. Rationalizing and improving your audit process is going to just hand that report right to the auditor. Have no problems at all when they come in. I've labeled, I've classified all of my SOX, all of my PCI applications. Get as granular as you want, my privilege systems, my classified systems. I run a report on that. The auditor comes in. I give them a report. I give them the to-do to review instead of them coming in, running exploration packets, assigning my people all the data to do. A successful audit should deliver a complete audit trail. Object versioning, pickup, the who, what, where, when, why a policy changed, what changed in that policy, what was the old value, what's the new value, why was it changed, who does it impact, when was it applied, and how did those people get that access they should or shouldn't have. The ability to report over these policies. Policies, just like everything, need to be managed. So inside of an audit, when you establish audit policies, they too are up for review. No one is exempt from being reviewed by the system. You want to be able to generate reports, modify reports, hit them with analytical tools, enable manager-based dashboards, and make their life easier at this point. The goal of a successful IGA implementation in a project is to make life easier, not just for IT, but for managers, system owners, compliance officers, auditors. Right? Get ahead of the curve. Incident response. We're inside of 8 minutes, so I'm cruising here, but happy to take questions after. Incident response is all about how you take signals from an external vendor, security graph, SIEM solutions. You want incident response to have a unique ability to suspend access and to grant it back. You have the right to take all access away from someone, allow for remediation, and in the event of external signal, I mentioned Microsoft Security Graph, anything that's feeding you information that a user's risk score is going to be high. A SIEM or a SOC team that's saying this user's sketchy, where they're downloading erratic amounts of data. Anybody that's a repeat policy violator, you may want to suspend their access until you can sit them down and have a conversation with them and say, you have a history of violating policy. Why is that? Abnormal data access. 3 in the morning, your account's used. It's hitting the SharePoint server. It's downloading every single file. That might be some abnormal access, right? You should be sleeping at 3 in the morning. You're accessing servers you don't typically access. As with any violation or any incident response, the ability to revoke that and restore it. The whole purpose of dealing with an incident, taking an external signal, driving that signal to a result, and at the same time, we revoke access or suspend access, we have the right to mitigate. When we mitigate, we're able to clean up, ensure that there's data validation, and restore the access once we have mitigation. Omada's IdentityProcess Plus is, again, a book that we have in the back. Jess, you can wave, but it has copies for anyone who does not have a copy. And you will see that the Process Plus has these 7 domains, which I just covered. And it is the most, probably one of the best resources out there. We've gotten a lot of accolades for it. I'd encourage everybody to get a digital download of it, which we have cards here for it, or take a book home with you. You can read it. It covers everything that you need to think about as you approach on your IGA journey. We have a practical approach, and this is a good example of it. You see my timeline moves horizontally. My systems and business features are going to be on the vertical axis. Use cases, we're looking for roles here. Start with AD and HR, some basic reports. Good clean data, good solid foundation. Expand on that. Add some attestation. Build in some more advanced reporting. You notice add critical systems. Critical systems doesn't have to be one project. Critical systems could be a program inside of itself, and you could have 15, 20, 5, 50, 700 critical systems, however it is. You fraction those out and you build them accordingly. Ongoing system onboarding. Now you're starting to rationalize. You've got roles defined through self-service. And I'll stop right here because on the role premise that you have, you can see that we use a clean, validate, and do role design. So we've got good data, making good decisions, driving great role results. And now you have your automatic provisioning and your roles and policies are now calculated. But you know these are building blocks building across each other. And really, if you want to be successful, the key is to optimize your IGA. Whether you want to manage risk and maintain business agility. This is the balancing act that every company that you may be engaging with, every one of you in this room as an individual may be coming to challenges with. How do we achieve our goals? How do we mitigate risk, protect that sensitive information, drive compliance, not be on the news the next day, not be in the paper, not have a data breach, not pay a fine, But at the same time, how do I enable my business to be agile? How do I enable my users to function? How do I digitally transform their collaboration capabilities and enable the business to grow? With that, 3 minutes left. I will take one question, and then we are going for beer. Any beer you want. I can't go past this line. It's a dead zone over here.
Any advice on handling role explosion? Any advice on handling role explosion?
If you are taking and not defining the role, but using policies to shape the desired outcome of the individual, you won't have role explosion. Which is why I say don't go in and create a role and then build the access or associations with it. Build the policies that drive the outcome of the role. And if you get to that 85%, have a great access request system to fill the delta for those one-off apps that not everybody needs. It's one or two people that need. Don't incorporate that into your role process. And that's where if you create, we need a role for this, we need a role for that, we need a role for this. Limit the number of roles and use policy to drive your desired results. Contextual-based assignments, if you will. You could say it's attribute-based, but a context doesn't necessarily have to be an attribute, right? If location is an attribute and you want to use attribute, org can be an attribute, your title can be an attribute, your job function, your division, certain attributes can be keyed on, extension attributes, for example, that come from an HR system, security clearance, etc.